Hello, I'm James Sheard from the Accountancy People, and welcome to my budget special on George Osborne's 2016 budget. Now, there were some important changes in the budget, but actually a lot fewer changes than in previous years. Now, if you look at the budget, there's a whole load of political stuff, a whole load about public spending, about High Speed 3 and this and that. Well, I'm not worried about all of that, because that doesn't affect the tax that my clients are paying, and this is about the tax that you might have to pay. And what I'm interested in is the tax as it affects small businesses and individuals. Now, a lot of the changes actually only affect very large businesses, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, the biggest change was to capital gains tax. Now, the change doesn't affect buy-to-let landlords or the sale of second properties, because they're still going to be taxed at the higher rates. But there's some useful reductions in the general capital gains tax rates. So the rates are going down from 28% to 20% and 18% to 10%, so that's an 8% reduction. And there's also an extension of what will be at 10%, which would have been entrepreneurs' relief. Now, I don't know exact details of that, but no doubt it will be announced in time. There are some significant changes to stamp duty on commercial property. It's going to be more similar to domestic property. So if you sell a commercial property for more than £250,000, you'll now pay 5% stamp duty on the excess over £250,000, although you pay less on smaller amounts. But if you've got a property that you want to sell for £1 million or £2 million, then that's a significant amount of tax that you'll be paying. So stamp duty is going to become a really important tax on larger commercial deals. The other big change is in ISAs. Now, the ISA limit, the general ISA limit, will be the same next year as it is this year, but then in 2017 it's going up from 15,000 to 20,000. So that means for a couple, you'll be able to put £40,000 into an ISA each year. So that's a very significant amount of money, and certainly enough for most people's general savings. And it means over the years, you'll be able to build up very significant funds. My dream always is to be an ISA millionaire, because having £1 million completely free of tax, I think, would just be fantastic. The other change to ISAs is that there's, and this is where the Chancellor talked about the budget being for the next generation. Now, when they talk about the next generation, I think, well, it's not for me then. But actually, I think this could affect a lot of people, both who want to save for their children as well as people who are younger. So this is just for people who are under 40. So it's a lifetime ISA. And you can put up to £4,000 a year, and the government will top that up to £5,000. So I'll give you £1,000. And you'll be able to use that money to either buy a house or as a pension when you're over 60. So I think that's quite, I mean, it's really good to get that tax boost from the government, but also it's quite an interesting way to save money for your children or for your grandchildren to put it into one of these lifetime ISAs. Corporation tax will be 20% next year, and then will be 19% in the following year, going down to 17% in 2020. And I don't worry too much about what it's going to be in 2020, because it'll change again before we get there. So the main rate is 20% next year, going down to 19% in 2017. That's a small but significant change. In terms of, there are a lot of technical changes to corporation tax that are coming through, but when you look at them, they're all for big companies. So just an example, there are some quite significant changes to losses that have been announced, but they only affect businesses with profits of over £5 million. Well, none of my clients have profits of over £5 million, so it affects nobody who might be listening to this, I would assume. Probably the other significant change, it'll only affect a few people, but it'll affect them significantly, is to personal service companies. That's when you have your own company and you work in the public sector. So when you have your own company and you work in the public sector, there are going to be strict new rules that will be enforced by your employer to make sure that effectively that you're IR35 compliant. So to make sure that you do have a proper business. So, and the way that I'd expect this to manifest itself is that there will be some new rules and new hurdles that you have to go through when you renew any contract that's going to go into your limited company if you work in the public sector. So that would particularly include any doctors, any nurses, and social workers that work through their own limited company. So I think it'll certainly give you an extra administrative burden when you're signing up for your new contract, and it may mean that you can no longer operate through your own limited company. We don't know exactly what the rules are going to be because there is going to be some guidance from the Revenue which we haven't seen yet. The final change I want to talk about is to business rates. Now, very small businesses haven't been paying business rates for some time. Now the level of rateable value is going to increase quite substantially, and he says that 600,000 businesses are no longer going to pay business rates. Well, I'd hope that some of you will be included in that. We'll see, and you know, it really depends what your rateable value is, which we don't deal with. So that hopefully will save you some money. So in summary, there's some significant changes to capital gains tax. There are some quite significant changes to the way commercial property is going to be dealt with for stamp duty, and there's some quite big changes to ISAs. But overall, the changes are much more limited than in previous years. I hope you found this update useful. I'm James Sheard from the Accountancy People. I look forward to hearing from you.